Story 1, The Park Loop and the Man Who Came Back. Part 1, The Third Lap. It was one of those sticky, airless summer evenings where the heat didn't go away, even after the sun sank. The kind where you could almost taste the dust in the air, mixed with the sweetness of cut grass. Kira and I had been cooped up all day, the dogs restless, and with Mom working late, we decided to take them to the park for a long walk before dark. The park was a big circular trail, a loop, locals called it, about 20 minutes from our house. It was our usual route, wide gravel path, open field in the center, trees thick along the edges. From the parking lot, you could see almost the entire ring if you stood on the small hill near the pond. There were benches, dim lampposts, and a few picnic tables scattered around, but it wasn't a busy place after sunset. Calvin, the older dog, was a big shepherd mix who barked at anything with two legs. Samson, still young, was tall and clumsy and loved everyone. Kira, my 16-year-old foster sister, handled Samson while I took Calvin. I was 19 at the time, female presenting, quiet, still figuring myself out in more ways than one, and Kira had this boldness I envied. Where I froze, she fought. We parked just before 7, the sun bleeding orange into the treetops. The trail shimmered in the heat. Hardly anyone was around, just an older couple sitting by the pond and a man jogging in a neon shirt on the far side of the loop. About 10 minutes in, we met him. He came walking toward us from the opposite direction, maybe in his early 40s, dressed in a grey t-shirt and dark jeans that didn't fit the weather. He carried a bottle of water and smiled in that polite, small-town way. "Nice dogs," he said, slowing a little. "They are beautiful. Especially that one." He pointed to Calvin, whose ears shot up immediately. "Thanks," I replied, already tugging the leash a little shorter. Calvin's hackles were lifting, low growl rumbling in his chest. The man chuckled softly. "Ah, protective, huh? Good boy." He didn't stop walking, just gave a little nod and passed us. Normal. Harmless. One of those encounters you forget 5 minutes later. But 10 minutes later, we saw him again. He came out of the opposite side of the loop, the same direction as before, except this time he was ahead of us, walking toward us again. To do that, he would have had to cut straight across the inner field, which wasn't an easy shortcut. You'd have to climb through the ditch and cross the grass hill. "Wasn't that guy going the other way?" Kira asked quietly. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe he just changed direction." He smiled again when he saw us. "You girls are fast," he said, like it was a joke. Kira didn't answer. Calvin barked twice, sharp and deep, and the man gave him a small wave before stepping aside to let us pass. His eyes lingered, though, on me, I think. I felt it between my shoulder blades as we walked on. We didn't talk for a while after that. The sun had dipped lower, the sky shifting to bruised purple. My shirt clung to my back. Every time gravel crunched behind us, my heart jumped, but it was only Samson pulling his leash too tight or Calvin sniffing something in the brush. Then, maybe 5 minutes later, we met him again. This time he came from behind us, walking in the opposite direction, still alone. The third encounter. He didn't smile this time. Kira stopped walking. "Okay," she said under her breath, "that's not normal." My mouth went dry. Maybe it's just coincidence." "He's cutting across the inside," she said. "He has to be. Nobody can walk the loop that fast." Calvin started barking, louder this time, pulling toward the man. Samson whined, shifting behind Kira's legs. The man paused about 5 feet away, like he was about to say something, then thought better of it. He looked at me, then down at Calvin, then back up again. His face didn't move, no smile, no expression, just blank. We didn't say anything either. Finally, he turned and walked off in the opposite direction, his footsteps fading on the gravel. Kira exhaled hard. "We're done. Let's go." I nodded, swallowing the dry knot in my throat. The path back to the parking lot curved through a patch of woods before opening up near the picnic area. It was getting darker now, just the faint hum of cicadas and the soft jingle of the dogs' tags. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see him again. The parking lot came into view, mostly empty, except for our little blue SUV and another car parked 3 spaces away, an older silver sedan with tinted windows. The engine wasn't running, but the driver's seat was reclined just enough that you couldn't see anyone inside. Kira stopped walking. Was that car here before? I don't know, I said. I didn't notice. We hurried the last stretch, dogs pulling ahead. I fumbled with the keys, dropped them once, cursed softly. Calvin's leash tangled around my leg. Kira glanced back again. The car's lights just blinked. I froze. What? I swear I saw the taillights flicker. Like someone tapped the brake. I didn't look. I couldn't. My hand shook as I unlocked the car. We shoved the dogs into the back seat, still barking. I climbed into the driver's seat and slammed the door. Lock it, Kira hissed. I hit the button, heart pounding. Through the rearview mirror, the silver car was still there, silent, dark. But as I started the engine, its headlights flicked on. My stomach dropped. Go, Kira said. I backed out, too fast, gravel crunching under the tires. The sedan didn't move at first. I turned onto the exit road, hands slick on the wheel, and when I checked the mirror again, its headlights were behind us. Maybe he's just leaving too, I said, voice trembling. Kira didn't answer. She was turned sideways, watching out the back window. The park road fed into a 2-lane stretch through a wooded area before hitting the main highway. The sedan stayed 2 car lengths behind, never close enough to be obvious, never far enough to relax. Every time I slowed at a stop sign, it slowed too. When I turned onto the highway, so did it. My pulse was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. Should I call Mom? I asked. She's working, Kira said. Just drive. Get to a gas station or something. But all I could think about was home, the familiar streets, the porch light, the safety of our locked doors. I told myself we were overreacting. That maybe he lived in the same direction. So I drove straight home. The sedan turned right before our neighborhood, disappearing into the dusk. I exhaled, shaky and dizzy with relief. See? He wasn't following us. Kira didn't look convinced. You should have still gone somewhere else first. I know, I said, though I didn't really believe anything bad was going to happen. It was almost 8 when we pulled into the driveway. The sky was deep blue now, the first stars just visible. The dogs bounded out, tails wagging, barking at nothing. We let them into the fenced yard and went inside. By the time we'd fed them and microwaved leftovers, the house felt normal again, quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner. I kept telling myself we were just spooked because it was getting dark. Still, every time I passed the window, I found myself glancing out, half expecting to see that grey shirt, that blank face. I didn't. Not yet. Part 2, the drive home. When we got home, the sky had gone dark except for the thin orange line bleeding over the rooftops. Our porch light flickered when I turned it on, one of those cheap bulbs Mom kept meaning to replace. Inside, the air felt cool and heavy, like walking into a freezer after being out too long. Calvin ran to the kitchen first, claws tapping across the linoleum. Samson followed, whining for water. I filled both bowls, trying to shake off the feeling still clinging to me. It's fine, I muttered, mostly to myself. We're home. Kira was still standing near the door, arms crossed. You didn't even check the mirror the whole drive, she said. I opened the fridge, pretending to look for something. He turned off before our street. It wasn't him. You don't know that. I didn't. But I couldn't handle thinking otherwise. We heated leftovers, pasta and salad, and ate sitting on the couch with the TV volume turned up just enough to fill the silence. The dogs had finally calmed down, both lying near the door with their heads on their paws. By 9, the house had fallen into its usual rhythm, air conditioner humming, fridge clicking on and off, the faint buzz of the porch light outside. Mom texted around then. Everything good? Might be late. Don't wait up. I typed back, all good. Just tired. Kira rolled her eyes when she saw it. You gonna tell her tomorrow, right? Tell her what? That some creep followed us through the park. I hesitated. If we tell her, she's never gonna let us go again. She'll freak out. She should freak out. I didn't answer. Instead, I started picking up dishes, pretending I didn't hear the irritation in her voice. The more normal things felt, the easier it was to believe we'd overreacted. By 9:30, we'd finished cleaning up. Calvin barked once, deep and sudden, then stopped. I froze. What was that? Probably a squirrel, Kira said, but her voice wasn't convincing. Then it happened again, a single, sharp bark, followed by Samson's low growl. Both dogs ran to the back door, claws scraping the floor, fur standing straight up. The porch light flickered once more, then steadied. Through the thin curtains, I saw a faint wash of light sweep across the ceiling. Headlights. Mom's home early, I said automatically, relief washing through me. I waited to hear the familiar slam of her car door. Nothing. Just the soft whine of Calvin and the sound of the storm door creaking open, slow and deliberate. Kira turned toward me, eyes wide. Mom doesn't open that door slow. My pulse spiked. Maybe she's carrying groceries. We both knew it was a lie. Calvin barked again, loud enough to shake the windows. Samson started lunging toward the door, tail stiff, teeth bared. Kira, I whispered, lock it. She grabbed the metal handle and pulled it shut, sliding the bolt in place. The dogs went insane, barking, snarling, pressing against the glass. Who's out there? She yelled, voice cracking slightly. No answer. The only sound was the insects outside and the low hum of an engine idling somewhere close. We stood frozen, neither of us breathing. Then, slowly, the headlight swept past the window again, brighter this time, like someone was circling the driveway. The light cut across the living room ceiling, then faded toward the front yard. I moved to the window and peeked through the curtain. A car was parked at the end of our driveway. The same make, the same dull silver color. Is that? Kira started. It looks like it. The driver's side door didn't open. The engine was running, but nobody got out. Calvin was still barking non-stop. Samson paced circles near the door. Call Mom, Kira said. My hand shook as I grabbed my phone. I told her quickly, trying to keep my voice low, what we'd seen, what was happening now. She didn't hesitate. Lock everything. I'm on my way. Do not open the door for anyone. When I hung up, Kira was already checking the windows, making sure each latch was tight. We moved room to room, trying not to make noise. The dogs followed, still agitated, sniffing under the windowsills like they could smell something we couldn't. For a few minutes, it was quiet again, so quiet I started to wonder if maybe the car had left. Then came the crunch of gravel from the backyard. We both froze. It wasn't the driveway. It was behind the house. Kira mouthed, backyard. The porch light flickered again. Calvin and Samson bolted toward the back door, barking like they were ready to tear through it. Stay here, Kira whispered. What are you doing? But she was already moving toward the kitchen. Kira. She grabbed one of the heavy dog toys, a thick rubber bone, and crept to the door, pressing her face to the small window. For a few seconds, she didn't move. Then she slowly turned her head toward me. There's someone by the kennel, she mouthed. My stomach dropped. What? He's just standing there. I rushed over, but she stopped me with her hand. Don't let him see both of us. Her voice was steady, but her hand was shaking. I strained to listen. Nothing but the cicadas outside and the dog's snarls echoing through the glass. Then, faint but clear, the crunch of a single step on gravel. He was moving. Kira backed away from the door, grabbed the kitchen knife from the counter, and whispered, "Call Mom again." My fingers fumbled over the screen. Mom didn't answer this time. I texted instead, "He's in the yard. Hurry." Kira motioned for me to turn off the kitchen light. I hit the switch, plunging us into dim orange glow from the living room lamp. We waited. A minute passed. Then another. The dog still barked, but there was no sound outside anymore. I dared to look again, slowly pulling the curtain aside just enough to see the yard. Empty. The gate to the kennel was open, swinging slightly. The floodlight over the garage was off. "He's gone," I whispered. Kira didn't lower the knife. "No. He's hiding." We stood there, barely breathing, until we finally heard the sound of another car approaching. Mom's headlight swept across the front yard, bright and warm and familiar. She parked crookedly in the driveway and jumped out, phone still in her hand. "What's going on?" she called. We ran to the door, letting the dogs barrel past us into the yard. Mom scanned the area with her flashlight, but by then, whoever it was, if it really was the same man, was gone. She called the non-emergency police line anyway. 2 officers came, one taking notes while the other shined a flashlight through the yard and around the fence. They didn't find anything except footprints by the kennel gate, too smudged to tell direction. The older officer gave us a sympathetic smile. "Probably just some neighbor cutting through. Your dog scared him off." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But when Calvin growled low again, staring at the empty space by the fence, I knew he was wrong. Kira and I didn't sleep that night. We sat in the living room with the dogs curled against our legs, listening to every creak of the house, every gust of wind outside. Mom double-checked the locks twice before she finally went to bed. And sometime after midnight, when I dared to peek through the blinds one last time, I thought I saw it, just for a second. The faint red glow of taillights at the end of the street. Then nothing. Part 3, someone outside. None of us slept that night. Mom stayed up with us until after 2, sitting at the kitchen table with her phone on speaker, scrolling through neighborhood forums and Facebook groups. She kept muttering things like, "I told the HOA we need better streetlights," while Calvin lay under her chair, occasionally growling at nothing. The officers had left an hour earlier. They'd walked the perimeter, shined their flashlights into the trees, even checked the street out front. No suspicious vehicles, no footprints they could identify, no sign of forced entry. They were polite but clearly unconvinced. "Probably an animal," one of them had said when we mentioned seeing a man. "Deer come through here all the time. Shadows play tricks on the eyes." Kira had almost laughed in his face. "Deer don't open storm doors." Mom cut in before it escalated, thanked them for coming, and locked the door behind them. Now she sat quietly, fingers tapping against the table, the phone screen lighting up her tired face. "Was it the same man from the park?" she finally asked. Kira looked at me. "Yes," she said flatly, before I could answer. Mom sighed. "You didn't even get his license plate." "He was parked behind us," I said. "Tinted windows." "Still," she murmured, "if you'd gone to a gas station." I know. The guilt sat heavy in my chest. I'd been the one driving. I'd chosen to go straight home. Mom rubbed her forehead. "We'll stay together tonight. I'll call the police again in the morning, ask if they can send patrols around." Kira nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe they'd find anything. Neither did I. By 3 a.m., exhaustion hit, but sleep never came. The house made every sound louder, the refrigerator kicking on, the click of the pipes, the wind nudging the porch swing. Each one made my stomach clench. At some point, Mom dozed off on the couch. Kira and I sat on the floor with the dogs, whispering about nothing just to keep from thinking. "I keep seeing his face," Kira said softly. "Like, right before he turned away. He looked angry." I nodded. "I know. You think he followed us home?" I hesitated. "He couldn't have known where we live." Kira looked at me like I'd just said something naive. "He followed our car for 20 minutes. I didn't answer. Morning came slow. Grey light filtered through the curtains. I felt hungover from fear and lack of sleep. Mom insisted on staying home from work, just to make sure. We walked the yard again in daylight. The gravel near the kennel looked disturbed, a faint footprint pressed into the dirt, the kind of thing you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. Kira crouched near it, tracing the edge with her finger. "Boot tread," she said quietly. Mom frowned. "Could be yours." I was barefoot. None of us said anything after that. The rest of the day blurred. Mom made calls, to the HOA, to animal control, to the police station again. The officer on duty promised to send someone by when available, which sounded like a polite way of saying don't hold your breath. By afternoon, the heat outside was unbearable. The dogs refused to go near the back fence. Calvin, usually bold, sat pressed against the sliding door, ears flat. "See?" Kira said. He remembers. That night, Mom closed every curtain in the house. She even dragged an old chair in front of the back door, just in case. I tried to act normal, watched a movie, scrolled through my phone, but the unease sat in my chest like a weight. Every reflection in the window looked like movement. Every passing car made me flinch. Around 9:30, almost the same time as the night before, Calvin lifted his head and gave a low, throaty growl. "Don't start," Mom said automatically, without looking up from her laptop. Then Samson joined in, ears perked, tail stiff, eyes locked on the back door. Mom sighed and stood. Probably a raccoon. But as soon as she reached the door, both dogs exploded into barking. "Okay, that's not a raccoon," Kira said, already grabbing the flashlight. Mom looked out the window. "I don't see anything." The porch light flickered, again. I felt the air shift, that subtle static before panic. "Everyone upstairs," Mom said quickly. "Now." We backed toward the stairs. The dogs stayed by the door, barking frantically. Then something hit the side of the house. A single, heavy thud, like someone had thrown a rock or kicked the siding. Mom froze mid-step. "Get in my room," she whispered. We ran. She followed, closing the door behind us and locking it. Calvin barked from the hallway, desperate to get in. Mom grabbed her phone, dialed 911 this time. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Someone's outside my house. Possibly the same individual from last night. Please send a unit immediately." I could hear the dispatcher's voice faintly through the speaker, asking for details. "Yes," Mom said. "We have dogs." No one's injured. We're upstairs." While she talked, Kira pulled the blinds aside just enough to look out the window facing the driveway. Her breath caught. "He's there." Mom turned sharply. "Where?" "End of the driveway. Just standing there." I moved closer and saw it too. A man-shaped shadow, motionless near the mailbox. Even from that distance, I recognized the gray t-shirt. The way he held his shoulders. "Is he looking at the house?" Mom whispered. Kira nodded. "Right at us." Mom's voice trembled when she spoke to the dispatcher again. "Yes, he's still here. Please hurry." The man didn't move for nearly a minute. Just stood there in the glow of the streetlight, head tilted slightly. Then, as if realizing we were watching, he stepped backward into the dark. Gone. We waited, listening. Sirens arrived 10 minutes later, washing the neighborhood in blue and red. 2 cruisers pulled up, lights flashing silently. Officers swept the yard, the street, even checked nearby lots. Nothing. No car. No footprints this time. They stayed for nearly half an hour, assuring Mom they'd increase patrol presence and file a report. Then they left. The moment their taillights disappeared, the house felt unbearably empty. We didn't see him again after that night. Mom installed motion lights and cameras the next day. Kira made a habit of keeping one of Calvin's leashes by her bed, saying, "If he barks again, I'm letting him out there." I believed she meant it. Weeks passed. Summer turned to September. Life slipped back into something like normal, though not really. I stopped walking the dogs at that park. Sometimes even driving past it made my chest tighten. Kira joked about it less and less. Every once in a while, she'd check the footage on the new cameras and whisper, "What if he comes back?" He never did. At least, not that we know of. A few months later, I was cleaning out my car when I found something wedged behind the back bumper, a thin strip of plastic, the kind used to hold a temporary license plate cover. I didn't think much of it until I realized it wasn't from our car. Kira said maybe it had blown there, but I couldn't stop thinking about that sedan with the tinted windows. About how close it had been parked to us that night. I threw it away without showing Mom. Even now, years later, the smallest things bring it back, the crunch of gravel, the flicker of headlights across a ceiling, the sound of a door creaking open. Sometimes, when I'm driving at night, I catch myself checking the rearview mirror too often. I make extra turns, take detours, loop through gas stations before heading home. Because the truth is, the worst part isn't what happened. It's how close it came to being worse. We were lucky. If we'd stayed longer at the park. If we'd ignored the dogs. If Kira hadn't looked out the window when she did. Lucky. And stupid. Because I still remember what every safety video, every true crime story said, if you think someone's following you, don't go home. I didn't listen. And for 2 nights, he knew exactly where we lived. Story 2, The Window Watcher. Part 1, The First Face. I'd only been living alone for about 4 months when it happened. It was late summer, the kind of humid night where every sound carries. My apartment sat on the ground floor of a small complex, cheap, quiet, nothing fancy. The selling point had been the sliding glass doors that opened right into a little patch of grass and the parking lot beyond. No fence, no gate, just a thin metal screen and a curtain for privacy. I liked that spot at first. I could see the trees, hear people walking by, even feel the breeze if I left the glass door cracked open. The building felt safe. Families lived upstairs, a retired couple across the hall. The parking lot lights glowed all night. I was 20 at the time, working late shifts at a diner, usually home around midnight. My boyfriend, Ben, stayed over a few nights a week, but most of the time, it was just me. The first time it happened, it was around 1 in the morning. I'd just gotten off work, showered, and was sitting on the couch with my laptop, window cracked open for air. The curtain was half drawn, and the screen was the only thing between me and the parking lot. Calvin Harris played softly on my phone speaker, a lazy rhythm filling the silence. Then something changed. It was subtle, a shift in the sound outside. The low hum of crickets cut off all at once, like someone had walked too close. I glanced toward the window. At first, I didn't see anything. Just the reflection of my own lamp, the faint orange from the parking lot lights. Then the reflection moved. No, someone moved. A face pressed against the screen. So close the mesh bent inward. A man's face, eyes wide open, staring straight at me through the thin weave of metal. Pale skin and shaven jaw, expression blank except for the way his mouth twitched slightly, like he was about to smile. For a second, my body didn't react. It was like my brain short-circuited, caught between disbelief and horror. Then the scream came, tearing up my throat before I could think. "Get away from my window." The man flinched, stepping back half a foot, but didn't run. He just stood there, watching. I grabbed my phone, shaking so badly I almost dropped it, and yelled, "I'm calling the police." That made him move. He turned sharply and bolted toward the lot, disappearing between the rows of cars. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely type. I called 911, but by the time an officer arrived 15 minutes later, the lot was empty. He was polite, if a little dismissive. Probably some drunk neighbor. "You said he didn't try to break in." "No, but he was watching me." He nodded, writing something down. "Keep the blinds closed. If it happens again, call us right away." That was it. After he left, I locked the window and sat there until dawn, lights on, heart hammering every time I heard footsteps outside. When Ben came over the next evening, I told him everything. He didn't laugh, but he didn't look too scared either. "You said he didn't break in?" he asked. "No. He just stared." Ben stayed the night. Actually, he stayed the whole week. I noticed how he'd deliberately leave the blinds open a few inches, like he was daring the guy to come back. Nobody did. By the end of the week, I was almost convinced I'd overreacted. Maybe it had been some random drunk, like the cop said. Maybe I'd scared him off for good. Ben went back to his place that Sunday, promising to stop by the next night after work. I told myself I wasn't scared anymore. And for a while, I wasn't. 3 weeks passed without incident. I started leaving the blinds cracked again, just a little, enough to let in some air. Then, one Friday night, I got home late from a double shift. The diner had been slammed, and my feet ached. It was close to midnight when I parked, the lot half empty and quiet. I remember noticing how still everything was, no voices, no TVs, not even a car door slamming. Just the buzz of the street lights and my own footsteps on the concrete. Inside, the air smelled stale. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and went straight to the window to pull the blinds shut. That's when it happened again. As the fabric slid across the glass, 2 eyes appeared on the other side, so close they almost touched the pane. I screamed before I could stop myself. The man jerked back, but I got a clear look this time, early 30s, messy hair, wearing a dark hoodie. Same face. Same dead stare. He ducked low, out of sight. I grabbed my phone and called 911 immediately. My voice came out shrill and shaking. "He's back. There's a man at my window." The dispatcher kept me on the line until officers arrived. This time, they searched the lot thoroughly, even knocked on doors. Nothing. No witnesses. No cameras facing that side of the building. "Keep your windows locked," the younger officer said. "We'll file a report." Ben showed up 20 minutes later, out of breath and furious. "You're moving," he said, "no room for argument." He stayed with me again for a few nights. The police never called back. Life pretended to go on. But something had changed in me. I stopped sleeping well. Every sound made me flinch, the creak of the refrigerator, the pipes, even the upstairs neighbors walking. I started double-checking every lock, sometimes 3 times before bed. When Ben was there, I felt safe. When he wasn't, I'd sit awake with the TV on, staring at the drawn curtains, wondering if he was out there somewhere. Watching. Waiting. 3 more weeks passed before the next incident. By then, Ben had gone home again, promising to come back on the weekend. I was supposed to stay with a friend for 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday, but Friday afternoon I stopped by my apartment to grab a change of clothes. It was broad daylight, 2 in the afternoon. The air was heavy, sunlight slanting through the blinds. I remember humming to myself, thinking about lunch. Then I noticed it. 2 small holes cut into the window screen, right by the latch. Perfectly even, clean cuts, big enough for fingers. I dropped my bag and stepped closer. The metal mesh curled inward where it had been sliced. Those holes hadn't been there before. I knew every inch of that window from the number of times I checked it. Someone had been planning to come inside. I called Ben immediately. He was silent for a long second, then said, "Don't stay there tonight. Or ever." I didn't. That night, I slept on my friend's couch. 2 weeks later, I found a new apartment on the 3rd floor of a building with security cameras and an entry code. I never went back to the old one alone again. For months afterward, I couldn't stand opening curtains after dark. Even now, years later, I still get a chill when I see window screens, especially ones with tiny, perfect holes near the latch. Because I know what that means. He'd been watching, waiting for the moment I'd be alone. And if I'd come home just a few hours later that day, maybe he wouldn't have needed to cut through the screen. Maybe he would have just opened it. Part 2, the cut screen. Moving out should have felt like a clean break. It didn't. Even after I left that apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might still be out there somewhere. That he'd seen me packing. That he'd watched me carry the boxes to Ben's car, memorizing the make and license plate. For weeks, I kept expecting to look up from the passenger seat and see that same pale face behind another windshield. Ben tried to be supportive, but I could tell it was wearing on him. I wasn't sleeping much, and every time we went anywhere at night, I'd jump at shadows. "You're safe now," he'd say. "We're on the 3rd floor. Locked doors. Cameras. He can't get to you." But safe didn't feel like it used to. The first month in the new apartment passed quietly. I started working mornings at the diner instead of nights. Ben came over often. I made myself a promise: no more open blinds, no more unlocked windows. Still, the paranoia lingered. I couldn't relax without checking the security footage in the hallway every few days. I even asked the building manager if I could see the cameras pointed toward the parking lot, just in case. He said no, obviously. But he must have seen something in my face because he offered to do a spot check. A week later, he told me everything looked normal. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Every time I tried to fall asleep, I'd see that moment again, the man's face pressed to the screen, the sound of my own scream echoing in my head. I'd imagine him crouched under the window, scissors or knife in hand, making those clean little cuts. Patient. Quiet. I knew I was safe. But my body didn't believe it. 2 months later, I went back to the old neighborhood. Not on purpose. I'd switched bus routes, and one morning, I realized too late that the stop was right across from my old complex. It was bright daylight, a warm autumn morning. Still, my stomach turned when I saw the familiar beige walls, the identical cars lined up along the lot. From across the street, I could see my old apartment window, new curtains, new tenant. Someone else lived there now. But as I stood there waiting for the light to change, chill ran through me. Because I could have sworn there was someone sitting in the driver's seat of the silver sedan parked in the same spot where I used to park. Engine off. Tinted windows. I couldn't see a face. The light changed, and I walked fast, trying not to look back. My pulse thundered the whole way to work. Maybe it was just someone waiting for a friend. Maybe it was nothing. But it didn't feel like nothing. A week later, Ben and I had our first big fight. He wanted me to move past it, to stop checking locks and triple calling the super every time I heard a noise in the hallway. "I get it," he said, rubbing his temples. "It was scary. But it's over. You can't keep living like you're being hunted." The word hit me harder than it should have, hunted. Because that was exactly how it had felt. And even though I knew he was right, the idea of pretending everything was normal made me sick. That night, I had my first nightmare about the window. In the dream, I was back in the old apartment, sitting on the couch. The blinds were open. I could feel eyes on me before I turned. And there he was. But this time, he wasn't outside. He was inside, standing behind me, holding the torn screen like a trophy. I woke up screaming. After that, I started therapy. The counselor, a soft-spoken woman named Alicia, was the first person who didn't make me feel crazy. She said what I'd experienced was a stalking precursor event. That people like him often test boundaries first, watching, following, escalating slowly. "It's good that you trusted your instincts," she said. "That probably saved you." She also said something else that stuck with me. "Your fear is trying to protect you. Don't hate it. Just teach it where to live." I repeated that like a mantra for weeks. It helped a little. Until the phone call. It came one afternoon in early November. I was at the diner, cleaning tables before the evening rush. My phone buzzed, unknown number, local area code. "Hello?" At first, there was just static. Then a faint breath, like someone exhaling close to the mic. I froze. "Who is this?" "Nothing. Just breathing." Then, click. The call ended. I checked the log, 38 seconds. When I called back, it went straight to voicemail. I told myself it was spam. It had to be spam. But my shift ended late that night, and when I stepped out into the parking lot, I saw a familiar shape parked under the streetlight. A silver sedan. Engine running. I couldn't see the driver's face, tinted windows again, but the idle hum sounded just like the one that used to sit outside my old place, waiting. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I might faint. I called Ben, voice shaking so bad he could barely understand me. He told me to get inside the diner and wait. He'd pick me up. The sedan drove off 5 minutes before he arrived. We filed a report again, but without a plate number or description, the police couldn't do much. They were polite, sympathetic even, but I could hear the subtext, "It's probably coincidence." Alicia said the same thing. "It could be your mind connecting patterns to keep you safe," she told me gently. But that didn't explain what happened next. 2 days later, I found a note taped to my apartment door. Plain white paper. No envelope. Just 3 words, printed in shaky pen. "Nice view, huh?" I stared at it for a full minute before I could move. My hands went cold, my stomach flipped. The handwriting wasn't familiar, but the phrasing hit me like a slap. He'd said something similar that first night, right before I screamed. "Nice dogs," he'd said, smiling through the screen. "Nice view you've got here." That night, Ben called the police himself. They sent 2 officers, who looked at the note and promised to dust it for prints. Nothing ever came back. We bought a camera the next day and installed it above my door. Ben also added a motion sensor light outside the apartment window. For a while, that helped. I started sleeping again. The light clicked on once or twice a week, but every time I checked the footage, it was just raccoons or delivery people. Then, one night in December, the light came on again. Except this time, it didn't shut off. I looked at the monitor, half asleep, and saw the faint outline of a figure, tall, still, standing at the edge of the frame, just outside the cone of light. He didn't move. Didn't come closer. Just stood there. I watched for almost a full minute, paralyzed. Then the motion light timed out, plunging the feed into darkness. When it clicked back on, the space was empty. That was the last time I ever saw him, or thought I saw him. Ben insisted we move again, this time to a building with a gated entrance and underground parking. I agreed without argument. Months later, I learned that another tenant in my old building, the one who'd taken over my first-floor apartment, had filed a police report about someone watching through the window one night in February. No arrests were made. It's been 4 years now. I'm doing better, new city, new job, new locks. But I still can't sleep with curtains open. Sometimes, I think about how easily it all could have gone differently. If I hadn't screamed that first night. If I hadn't checked the window that afternoon. If I hadn't trusted the feeling that something was wrong. People always say, don't be paranoid, don't overreact. But I've learned that instinct isn't paranoia. It's survival. And if you ever feel like someone's watching you, don't look away. Trust that chill crawling up your spine. It might be the only warning you get. Part 3, the afterimage. It's strange what stays with you. Sometimes I think about that night, the sound of my own scream, the shimmer of light on the glass, and it feels like someone else's memory. Other times, it's like I never left that apartment at all. Even now, for years later, I still find myself pausing before opening the blinds. My hand hovers over the cord, heart stuttering, waiting for that gut feeling to tell me it's okay. It usually isn't. When I moved to the new city, I told myself it was a clean slate. New job. New building. 4th floor this time, with secure entry and cameras on every corner. The first week, I kept all the curtains closed. My therapist, Alicia, told me to take small steps, exposure in safe doses, she called it. So I'd open them an inch in the morning. 2 inches the next week. I'd stand there, coffee mug trembling, forcing myself to look outside without flinching. Most days I managed. Some days I didn't. One morning, a maintenance worker walked past the window while I was brushing my teeth. He just glanced up, polite and brief, but I froze mid-motion. My brain didn't see a uniform and clipboard. It saw him. That hollow face behind the mesh. That stillness. My chest locked up so tight I couldn't breathe for a full minute. When I finally came back to myself, I was sitting on the floor, toothbrush on the tile, heart slamming like I'd just outrun something. That's what trauma does. It sneaks up in the quiet moments, brushing your teeth, folding laundry, walking home from work, and suddenly you're back there, behind the glass, frozen between disbelief and terror. I learned to hide it well. To most people, I'm just cautious. The girl who always parks near lights. Who triple checks door locks. Who avoids ground floor apartments. They don't see the rest, the nightmares, the way my stomach knots when I hear heavy footsteps outside, the way my body still expects a face to appear whenever the light shifts against the window. That's why I call it the afterimage. You know how when you stare at something bright, you still see it after you look away. It fades, but it's never completely gone. That's what he became, an afterimage burned into the back of my mind. Ben and I didn't last. We tried, we really did, but trauma changes how you connect with people. He wanted to fix it, to make it logical, to help me move on. But fear doesn't answer to logic. Sometimes I'd wake him up at 3 a.m. because I swore I heard someone outside. He'd check, find nothing, crawl back into bed, and sigh quietly into the pillow. That sigh broke something in me. Because I understood it. I was tired, too. We split a year later, kindly, quietly. No big fight. Just a gradual realization that I needed to heal in a way he couldn't guide. After that, I spent a lot of time alone. Alicia told me isolation was both my shield and my prison. You're building safety by control, she said, but life doesn't happen in control. It happens in trust. That word, trust, didn't mean much to me then. It still makes me nervous sometimes. But she was right. So I started small. Coffee shops instead of takeout. Walks in crowded parks. Talking to neighbors instead of avoiding eye contact in the hallway. Each time I stepped out of my comfort zone, I imagined her voice saying, "See? You're safe here. You're allowed to exist without scanning for threats." It worked, slowly. The nightmares came less often. I even got a cat, something soft and alive to fill the apartment with sound. Her name's Luna. She sleeps near the window, tail flicking lazily when cars pass below. I envy her calmness sometimes. 2 years after the incident, I finally went back to visit my hometown. It felt surreal driving past the old streets, the grocery store, the diner where I used to work. Everything looked smaller somehow. When I passed the old apartment complex, I almost didn't recognize it. They'd repainted the walls, added a small gate near the parking lot, and trimmed the trees. Still, my stomach flipped when I saw that same row of ground floor windows. I parked across the street and just sat there, watching. The world looked so ordinary, kids on bikes, someone walking a dog, laundry flapping on a balcony. Normal. Safe. But I couldn't stop wondering if he was still around. Not because I wanted to see him, God, no, but because part of me needed to know he was real. That I hadn't invented it. After everything, the police reports, the cut screen, the note, I'd started to doubt my own memory. Trauma does that, it makes reality fuzzy at the edges. So I sat there for 10 minutes, watching my old window. Nothing happened. Then a woman came out with a baby on her hip and smiled at me, curious but kind. That was enough. I drove away with my hands shaking and tears in my eyes, not from fear this time, but something closer to release. Sometimes I get messages from people who've heard bits of my story, friends of friends who've had similar experiences. They always ask the same thing. How did you know something was wrong that first night? The truth is, I didn't know. Not consciously. It was the quiet that told me, the sudden absence of crickets, the shift in air pressure, the way every instinct screamed that something nearby wasn't right. That feeling wasn't paranoia. It was intuition. And it probably saved my life. That's what I tell them. If you ever feel that kind of fear, the deep, primal kind that doesn't need proof, listen to it. Don't brush it off to be polite. Don't rationalize it away. And for God's sake, don't go straight home. Drive somewhere public. Circle the block. Check your mirrors. Because danger doesn't always come with a weapon in hand. Sometimes it comes with a quiet smile through a window screen. I still think about him sometimes. Not often, but enough. The not knowing bothers me, who he was, what he wanted, why he chose me. But then I remind myself, those answers don't matter as much as the fact that I'm still here. He didn't win. And the more distance I put between then and now, the more I understand what survival really means. It isn't about being fearless. It's about learning to live with fear, to let it sit beside you without letting it drive. I'll never open a window at night again. I'll never sleep on a ground floor. And I'll never, ever ignore my instincts. But I can laugh again. I can breathe again. I can stand by the window at noon, sunlight on my face, and not feel watched. That's enough for me. Sometimes, when the wind rattles the glass, Luna perks up and stares toward the balcony door. Her ears flick, her eyes wide. I always freeze, just for a second. Then she yawns, curls up again, and goes back to sleep. And I let out the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Maybe one day, that will be me, calm, unbothered, trusting the world again. Until then, I take comfort in knowing this. The man from the window may still be out there somewhere. But so am I. And I learned how to see him coming. Story 3, The Fake School Bus. Part 1, the morning it came early. I must have been 8 or 9 that summer, 3rd grade, maybe 4th. Old enough to walk to the bus stop by myself, young enough that Mom still stood at the door in her robe every morning, waving until the yellow bus disappeared around the corner. Our mornings followed the same rhythm: cereal, cartoons, Mom rushing to get dressed for work while I searched for my shoes. The bus usually came at 7 sharp, like clockwork. That particular morning, though, everything was running behind. Mom had hit snooze 3 times. I remember the smell of toast burning and her voice calling from down the hall, 5 more minutes, sweetie. Don't worry, the bus won't leave without you. It was bright outside already, summer light creeping through the blinds. I sat on the couch with my backpack, swinging my legs, watching the clock tick toward 6:45. Then I heard it. The rumble of an engine outside. Through the living room window, I saw a familiar yellow shape pull up to the curb. The bus. Except it was early. Way early. The clock on the wall still said 6:50. At first, I thought maybe I'd been reading it wrong. Maybe I was late, not early. The bus idled quietly, engine humming, a light cloud of exhaust drifting into the sunlight. The driver's side door opened with a squeak. A man stepped down, not my usual driver, Mrs. Collins, but a tall guy I didn't recognize. He wore a faded uniform shirt and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He squinted toward the house and waved. "You the Thompson kid," he called. His voice was cheerful, but a little too loud. I hesitated at the window. "Yeah? Mrs. Collins is out sick today," he said. "I'm filling in. Hop on, you don't want to be late." That's when Mom came down the hall, half-dressed, hair still wet. "Bus all ready?" she asked, frowning. "Yeah," I said, pointing toward the window. "But it's early." She came over and peered out. I remember how her face changed, confusion first, then something sharper. She said slowly. "They never come this early." The man was still waiting, one hand on the bus door. I could see him tapping his foot, glancing up and down the street. There was no one else around, no kids, no other parents. Mom opened the front door and stepped out onto the porch. "You're early today," she called. "Yeah, we're running ahead," he said, forcing a laugh. "Got to pick up a few extra routes." She crossed her arms. "You from the same district?" He hesitated just a beat too long before nodding. Sure, got the list right here. He patted the clipboard under his arm, but didn't hold it up for her to see. Mom smiled politely but didn't move. We'll wait for the regular one, thanks. The man's smile faltered. Suit yourself, he said, voice tight now. He climbed back up, slammed the door, and pulled away a little too fast. We stood there in silence, watching the yellow bus turn the corner and disappear. After a moment, Mom exhaled and shook her head. Weird, she murmured. Maybe they really did change drivers. She went back inside to finish getting ready, and I went back to the couch. My heart was pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. 10 minutes later, at exactly 7 o'clock, the real bus arrived. This time it was Mrs. Collins, smiling, waving, the bus full of kids. Mom stepped outside again and waved her down. Morning, she called. You feeling better? Mrs. Collins looked puzzled. Better? I'm fine. Mom blinked. Oh. The substitute said you were sick. What substitute? The man who came earlier. Said he was covering your route. Mrs. Collins frowned, glancing up and down the street. No one's covering my route. I've been driving this bus every day this week. Mom's face went pale. She reached for my shoulder and kept me close as Mrs. Collins waved for the other kids to stay seated. Can you call dispatch? Mom asked quietly. Mrs. Collins nodded and pulled out her radio, stepping a few feet away. I could hear her voice, calm but firm. Hey, I've got a parent here says a different bus came by earlier. Yellow, unmarked. Driver said he was subbing for me. There was a pause. Then, faintly, a man's voice crackled back. What? We don't have any subs out today. All drivers accounted for. Mrs. Collins met Mom's eyes, and for the first time, I saw fear in both their faces. The rest of the morning was a blur of phone calls and police cars. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, legs swinging, while 2 officers asked Mom questions, what time the bus came, what the driver looked like, what he'd said. He looked official, she kept repeating. Uniform, clipboard, the works. But something about him felt off. They wrote everything down, thanked her, and said they'd contact the district's transportation office. When they left, Mom finally sat down across from me, her coffee untouched, hands trembling. You know, she said softly, if I hadn't overslept this morning, I probably would have just sent you out there alone. The thought hung between us, heavy and silent. I didn't really understand it then, what almost happened, what could have happened. I just knew that something very bad had been waiting for me on that bus. That night, Mom let me sleep in her bed. She kept the TV on low, the flickering light painting soft patterns on the ceiling. At some point, I asked, do you think they'll catch him? She turned toward me, her face half-shadowed. I hope so, honey, she said. But even if they don't, we'll be okay. You're safe. I promise. And for years, I believed her. But that promise didn't stop the dreams. In them, I'd be standing at the curb again, the rumble of the engine in my chest. The door would open, and the man would wave, smiling that too wide smile. Come on, kid, he'd say. You don't want to be late. And no matter how many times I told myself to run, my feet wouldn't move. I didn't learn the full story until I was a teenager. One night, I asked Mom about it again, expecting her to laugh it off like some weird fluke. Instead, she went very quiet. Then she pulled out an old newspaper clipping she'd kept in a drawer. The headline read, Police investigate attempted abduction, man posing as school bus driver. I scanned the article, my pulse quickening. It said a man in a yellow van modified to look like a school bus had been stopping in neighborhoods, claiming to be a substitute driver. He targeted elementary routes. Witnesses described him as mid-40s, dark hair, baseball cap, faded uniform. The police never caught him. The article mentioned at least 3 attempted pickups before parents reported it. The last one was on our street. Sometimes I think about how close that was, how small the gap between weird morning and missing child. If Mom hadn't been running late, if she'd been just a little more trusting, I would have climbed aboard that bus without question. I would have sat in the front seat, backpack on my lap, wondering why the windows were so tinted, why there were no other kids yet. And by the time I realized something was wrong, it would have been too late. Part 2, The Man in the Yellow Van. I didn't think much about that morning for a long time. Life moved on, new school, new friends, new routines. But every now and then, something small would bring it back. A bus engine idling on a quiet street. A yellow vehicle passing too slowly near a playground. The memory of that man's face, shadowed beneath the brim of his cap. Mom never liked to talk about it. If I brought it up, she'd say, "We were just lucky, that's all." Then she'd change the subject. But even as a kid, I noticed the way she always walked me to the stop after that, rain or shine, until middle school. She stopped trusting strangers after that day. So did I. When I turned 16, I started driving myself to school, and the bus years became a distant blur. By college, I'd half convinced myself the whole thing was exaggerated, a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Then one weekend during my sophomore year, I went home to help Mom clean out the attic. She'd decided to move, and we were sorting through boxes of old photo albums, school papers, and junk. That's when I found the folder. A plain manila one, tucked inside an old box labeled, Documents, 2005. Inside were 3 newspaper clippings, a few printed emails, and a handwritten note from the local police department. Mom must have seen my face when I read the first headline. Police warn of man impersonating school bus driver. The article was dated 2 days after our incident. It described a suspect driving what appeared to be a repainted commercial van, yellow, fitted with false stop signs and magnetic school district decals. The driver claimed to be a substitute for sick employees. No arrests. No leads. Another clipping mentioned a similar incident in a nearby county. A mother reported that a substitute driver had shown up 10 minutes early, insisting her daughter get on. When she refused, he drove off. That girl's name wasn't printed, but the address listed was less than 15 miles from ours. I felt my stomach twist. "Mom," I said quietly, "why didn't you tell me it happened again?" She sighed, setting down a box of old toys. "Because I didn't want you growing up scared of everything," she said. "You were 8. You didn't need to know how bad it could have been." "But it was bad," I said. "You think it was the same guy?" She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it in her eyes. She'd asked herself that question 1,000 times. "I think," she said slowly, "he knew the routes. The timing. He wasn't just guessing." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing the bus, the way it had idled so quietly, the man waiting, watching our front door. And something clicked that I'd never considered before. If he'd really been faking a bus, then where were the kids? Why had he come so early, before anyone else was outside? Because he wasn't collecting passengers. He was waiting for one. Me. A few weeks later, curiosity got the better of me. I called the local police department, just to ask if they still had records from 2005. The receptionist transferred me to an old officer named Burke. "Yeah, I remember that," he said when I explained. "Fake bus, early pickup. Scared a lot of parents. Did they ever find him?" I asked. There was a pause. "No. We ran the plates from your mom's description, but they were stolen off another vehicle. Whoever it was, he knew how to blend in." "Do you think he worked for the district?" Burke exhaled. "We couldn't prove it, but, yeah, maybe. He knew too much. Where the stops were. What times the routes ran. He even knew some kids' names." I felt cold all over. "My mom said he asked for me by name." "Then you were lucky she came outside." His voice softened. "Some of the other kids he approached didn't have a parent watching. What happened to them?" Another pause. "Then, they ran inside. No one got taken, not that we know of. But he didn't just vanish, either. A few weeks later, there were reports in another state. Same pattern. Early bus, wrong driver. We sent the info to the FBI, but nothing came of it. He hesitated before adding, "Your mom did the right thing. You should thank her for that." I did. But it didn't make the image any easier to shake. That yellow van, the empty seats, the way he'd smiled when he thought I was coming. Years later, when I got my first apartment, I found myself doing something I couldn't explain. Every morning, before leaving for work, I'd glance out the window to check the street, to make sure no vehicles were idling there. And if I ever saw a yellow van, even a construction one, my chest would tighten. I told myself it was just old fear resurfacing. But some part of me still felt watched. Like the story wasn't over. One night, about a year after that call, I was visiting Mom again. She was making tea, flipping through her mail, when she froze mid-motion. "What's wrong?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just held up an envelope. No return address, but postmarked from 2 towns over. Inside was a single photograph. It showed a school bus stop sign, one of those folding ones at the end of a driveway, with our old house blurred in the background. Across the bottom, written in messy block letters, were 3 words. "Still on time." My hands went cold. Mom's lips pressed together in a thin line. "Probably a prank," she whispered, but I could hear her heartbeat in the silence that followed. We took it to the police that night. They filed a report, promised to look into it. But nothing came of it. The detective said it might have been a coincidence, an old photo from years ago. Maybe he was right. But neither of us slept that night. In the years since, I've told this story a few times, usually when people laugh about paranoid parents or say things like, "Stranger danger is overblown." It's not overblown. Sometimes evil doesn't hide in the dark, sometimes it paints itself bright yellow and waits at the end of your driveway. And sometimes, the only thing between you and it is a tired mother who trusted her gut. Even now, when I visit Mom, she still keeps that photograph in a locked drawer. She says it's a reminder, not of fear, but of instinct. Because that morning, she said no when something in her gut told her to. And that single decision might have been the only reason I'm still here to tell this story. Part 3, Echoes in the Rearview Mirror. It's strange how memory works. The more time passes, the more certain moments lose their shape, the way the air smelled, the exact shade of morning light. But some memories stay razor sharp, as if they were carved into you. For me, it's the sound. That soft, low rumble of a diesel engine outside the window. Even now, all these years later, it can stop me cold. After the letter, the photo with "Still on time" scrawled across it, Mom sold the house. She said it was just too big for one person, but we both knew the truth. The night we packed the last boxes, I caught her standing in the driveway, staring at the empty street. "Do you think he's still out there?" I asked. She didn't turn. "I don't know," she said softly. "But I don't intend to find out." She moved to a smaller place across town, a second-floor apartment with a coded gate and a view that didn't face the road. It was safer there. Quieter. But quiet has its own dangers. I didn't realize how deep the fear had sunk into me until I had kids of my own. My daughter's in 2nd grade now, the same age I was when that fake bus came. The first morning I watched her climb aboard her real school bus, I felt my throat tighten. I smiled, waved, pretended to be calm. But as soon as the bus turned the corner, I sprinted to my car and followed it for 5 blocks, just to make sure it stopped at the next house. It did. Still, I kept following it every morning for a week. Old habits die hard. Sometimes I think about how easily things could have gone differently. If Mom hadn't been late. If she hadn't listened to that flicker of doubt. If she'd been one of those parents who said, "Sure, sweetie, the new driver's fine, go on." It only takes one moment of misplaced trust. One moment to vanish. When I turned 30, I started writing down everything I remembered, for myself, for my kids, for anyone who might ever doubt their instincts. I wanted to believe it was over. That the man in the yellow van had either been caught, moved on, or died. But then something happened that made me wonder if some ghosts never really fade. It was late November, almost 20 years after that morning. I'd taken a few days off work to visit Mom. She'd just retired, still living in the same gated apartment complex, and I'd driven down after dark. She met me at the door, smiling, hugging, scolding me for not calling more often. We stayed up late drinking tea, talking about everything and nothing. By midnight, she was half asleep on the couch, an old movie flickering in the background. I offered to take the trash out before heading to bed. The night air was cold, the parking lot nearly empty. I walked the short path to the dumpster, listening to the hum of distant traffic. Then, faintly, almost too faint to notice, I heard it. A low, idling engine. Somewhere beyond the fence line. It was late enough that no one should have been moving around. I froze, listening. The sound grew a little louder, closer. I stepped toward the gate and peered through the slats. A vehicle sat parked just beyond the perimeter, partly hidden under a streetlight. At first, I thought it was a delivery truck or maintenance van. Then my stomach dropped. The paint. That unmistakable yellow. It wasn't a school bus, smaller, more like a van. But the color made my skin crawl. I could make out the faint outline of a stop sign decal on the side, faded but still visible. The engine idled for another 30 seconds, then cut off. Silence. A few moments later, the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He was older now, maybe in his 60s, but something about the way he moved, the way he scanned the dark like he was searching for something, made my heart hammer. He walked around the van, checked something near the back, then climbed in again. And before I could even think to take a picture, he drove off. No headlights for the first 100 feet. Just the dull hum of tires fading into the night. I didn't tell Mom right away. She was asleep, and I didn't want to scare her without proof. But I hardly slept that night, lying awake in the guest room, watching the faint glow of the parking lot bleed through the blinds. Every sound made me flinch, the wind in the trees, the distant whoosh of cars on the freeway. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was a coincidence. Plenty of yellow vans out there. Maybe it was just a painter's vehicle, or some contractor who parked wrong. That's what I told myself, until I went out to my car later that day. There, under the windshield wiper, was a scrap of paper. No writing. Just a small, torn photograph, the kind you take from a film camera. It showed the corner of a street, a driveway, and a blurry figure of a woman waving from a porch. My mother's porch. The photo was old. I recognized the bush that used to grow by the stairs, the one she cut down years ago. It was taken from the exact spot where the fake bus had stopped that morning 20 years earlier. I sat in the car for a long time, just staring at it. Was it him? Some twisted joke? A coincidence too precise to be real? When I finally went inside, I told Mom everything. She didn't say a word for a while. Then she reached for the old locked drawer where she kept the other photograph, the one that said "Still on Time." She pulled it out, set it beside the new one, and whispered, "It's the same paper. Same type. Same edges." We called the police again, of course. They sent someone out, took both photos, promised to follow up. But I could tell by their tone that they didn't believe it was connected. How could they? 20 years apart, no fingerprints, no threats. Just echoes. That was 3 years ago. No more photos have come since. But sometimes, when I'm driving home early in the morning, I'll catch a flash of yellow in my rearview mirror, a van or a small bus keeping steady pace behind me, and my pulse will spike before logic can calm me down. And every time, before I turn onto my street, I take an extra loop through the neighborhood. Just in case. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Predators don't always disappear. Sometimes they just wait until you've stopped looking over your shoulder. I tell this story not to scare people, but to remind them of something I learned far too young, something I hope my daughter never forgets. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, It probably is. If someone shows up too early, too eager, too friendly, ask questions. And if you ever think someone might be following you, don't go straight home. Fear keeps you alive. I'm living proof. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about that man. Whether he's out there somewhere, old now, maybe harmless. Whether he remembers the little kid standing behind the screen door, staring back at him through the glass. Maybe he doesn't. But I do. And I always will. Because every time I close my eyes, I can still hear the faint purr of that engine outside my window, early, quiet, patient, and see the smile that said, "You don't want to be late."